everybody, and welcome to Late Seating. I know it's been a while, but what do you want? It's a free show. Joining me again is the lovely and talented Steve Shives.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be joining you again, and also to be lovely and talented. Nice.
Now, you are the loveliest and the most talented. This time around, we are going to do a late seating review of the little-known, obscure film Guardians of the Galaxy. I would like to say that this show reviews movies where the hype has died down, but to be quite frankly honest, it's been about 5 weeks and the hype has still not died down on this movie. I believe it's still at #1. It had a little bump when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, where it dropped down to #2, and then it sprang right back up to #1 again. So I think waiting for the hype to die down on this, we'd be reviewing this at around Christmas. So we're going to do it now. Once again, I'm going to need to remind everyone, spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, all 2 of you in the United States, go out and see the movie before listening to this review. There are going to be spoilers aplenty. And to kick off, Steve, what did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, until recently, I was one of those people that had not seen it yet. I didn't see it opening weekend. I actually didn't see it until this past Friday of the day that we're recording this. And I loved it. I thought it was everything that everybody who had praised the hell out of it for the last month said it was. It was like the perfect combination of a Star Wars movie and a Star Trek movie and a comic book movie. There was just so much thrown in there. There was a great sensibility about it of, you know what, why don't we just do this too? There was no, it was unrestrained, but in a good way. It was unrestrained in terms of like its exuberance. It didn't feel unrestrained or undisciplined as a filmmaking exercise, which I think is a really key thing that makes it a good movie. The director, James Gunn, the writers, which was also James Gunn, the producers, everyone involved in the project are very skillful filmmakers and skillful artists. And so they weren't just jerking off. They weren't just doing whatever they felt like doing. They were doing it for a purpose and doing it with great craft, but there's a sense of endless possibility in the movie where you feel like, they could pretty much do anything at this point. I mean, it doesn't feel nailed down by there's no expectation that it's going to be realistic. Like there are scenes in this movie where people are out in the vacuum of space. And I love that. There's a scene in there where 2 of the main characters are out in the vacuum of space for what feels like forever. And they're starting to die. Like you can see they're starting to sort of freeze and crack, and it's like they're going to die eventually. But it's nothing close to what would actually happen if you were exposed to the vacuum of space in real life. And it doesn't matter. Like the sheer fact that they did it. And yeah, it's implausible. Yeah, that's not right. It's not scientifically accurate. But that's what made it so great. That feeling of, they're just going to go for it. They don't care about making it realistic. Since when did space adventure movies have to bend over backwards to make themselves seem plausible anyway? I mean, who cares? If it's fun, if you care about the characters emotionally, if you care about what happens to them, if you laugh at the jokes, who cares whether it could really happen or not? It's completely meaningless. And this is a movie that really gets that. And really get, like, it doesn't have to be plausible at all, and it's completely implausible, but it was so much fun. I loved every second of it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to completely agree with you. I didn't realize that I wanted a Star Wars with 4 Han Solos and 1 Chewbacca until I saw Guardians of the Galaxy. This is all the things that you just said. I think the most important thing is that it had a sense of fun about it. There are some serious stuff that comes up, but the feeling you get when you leave the movie is not, oh, wow, that raised a lot of issues about X, Y, and Z. This doesn't raise any issues about anything at all whatsoever. There are no analogies to anything that's going on in our lives. This is pure escapism. We're not going there going, well, it's obvious that villain represents the conservative agenda in regards to Afghanistan. Fuck no, it doesn't do any of that. It's a fucking space adventure where we go and watch people have fun, or at least jeopardize their lives. I've heard a lot of people make complaints like, oh, well, the villain is really, one-dimensional. He's just a villain. Go watch Star Wars. go watch Star Wars all separately, and you tell me what Darth Vader's big backstory is, because he don't have one. He's a big guy wearing a black suit, walking around killing folks for no discernible reason whatsoever. And when Star Wars came out, that was pure escapism as well. No one was sitting there going, "Well, this is clearly about the Vietnamese conflict when our troops are." No one did that. People went in droves because they went to have a good time, and that was a good time. There have been a lot of comparisons of this to Star Wars, some which I think are fair, some which I don't think are necessarily fair. But if I wanted a movie, I've been waiting for a movie that I could go to that doesn't carry any of our social baggage lumped on top of it in some sort of sloppy, um, you know, even I'll say this: Iron Man had it. Iron Man was all about arming our enemies, about weapons buildup and all that other stuff. And with this movie, some people are complaining about the plot where it's too simple. When you're doing a space adventure, you want a simple plot. When you're doing a group movie, you want a relatively simple plot. We have 5 relatively complicated characters. I'm not going to say that they're deeply complex and we should have spent an hour going into their backstories and their emotional states, but they're definitely characters that we haven't seen in other Marvel films or in other films in general. And this movie walks a razor's edge between being too goofy that we just disassociate ourselves from it, or too serious. It's like it hits that sweet spot right in the middle where you're like having fun. And to anyone who says, well, Ronan, who was the main villain, Ronan was too one-dimensional. Ronan was a stereotypical villain for one joke. They set up that character for one joke in the movie, and I'm going to spoil it now. So if you really have not turned away, you better do it now. The reason they had him be all serious and one-dimensional and I'm the big bad guy is for the ending scene when he lands on the planet and he's about to do the heinous, horrible thing. There's a swell of the heinous, horrible music, and our main hero dances like an idiot to distract him. That joke wouldn't have worked if we had had a more dimensional Ronin up to that point, because when he literally breaks serious character and goes, what are you doing? That is probably one of the... I have not laughed out loud harder in a film in a really long time than that. And I'm going to credit James Gunn. I've seen all of his films. A lot of his standby actors are in this. Yes, Nathan Fillion is in this in an unrecognizable CGI role, but Michael Rooker and I can't remember some of the others. They pop up in here. You'll recognize them if you know any of James Gunn's other films. You'll recognize them as well. As far as the color palette, the sense of scope, the scale, and just as I know that Steve is a DC lover, I'm a Marvel lover. And when Steve says this opens up the Marvel Universe to do whatever you want, they are not kidding. This really just says, hey, look how big everything is. There are things in there, as a Marvel fan, there are little Easter eggs throughout that entire movie that make me glow with happiness. I was so happy after leaving that film because it literally was a blank check to the rest of the Marvel Universe. Do whatever you want, whatever character. Why not? We'll do a Man-Thing movie. Micronauts. I would kill for a Micronauts movie. But so unless you haven't guessed, I really, really liked it. I really, really liked it. It reminded me a lot of the movies that I loved when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. It was also wholly original, so that I didn't feel like I was watching the same thing. It was funny. It was handled well. It was obvious. You know what? I can't believe I'm going to say this. This is a movie that you can take your family to. If you have kids above the age of 5, you take your kids to go see this. They're gonna go crazy for it, and yet it still is compelling for adults. And if people want to really know why this movie is doing as well as it's doing, it's probably because families can take everyone to it without the kids freaking out and getting too scared, or
Yes.
being exposed to dark stuff that makes everything so serious. And yeah, I'm doing a fucking Batman voice on purpose for that.
You know,
So, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
glad you brought up. I'm glad you brought up the kids because there were a lot of kids in the screening of it that I saw.
Hmm.
And like, which I mean, for my own selfish purposes, kind of got on my nerves. Like, I'm glad that the kids enjoy the movie. I agree with everything you just said. I think it's great that there's like a big mainstream movie that is a huge hit that families can go to and the kids can enjoy it and the parents can enjoy it and it doesn't feel like it's pandering to either audience, you know.
Yeah,
So it's not like the kids have to sit there and be patient and it's not like the parents have to sit there and be patient for the kids. Like everybody can enjoy it without
yeah.
feeling like they're being pandered to. I think that's great. I just really hate it when kids make noises in movie theaters. So
You
I
know
didn't
what?
like
When
it
you
for that
were a
reason.
kid going to movies, there was some curmudgeon in the audience
I
going,
know.
"Goddamn kids!"
Yeah, goddamn kid. And now I'm that guy. So
Yeah.
yes, I win at life. But the point you made about comparing, especially now with this movie, comparing the Marvel Studios series that began with Iron Man, of which this is a part, to what DC is doing over at Warner Brothers. I mean, it didn't really click with me until I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, the genius of what the Marvel Studios series has done, which is, and I mean, I've liked all of them. There haven't been any of them that I
There
have
hasn't
outright
really been
hated.
a clunker yet. It's kind
Yeah,
of like DC is waiting. Oh, this one. This is the one that will be the bomb.
wait, they're gonna have this talking raccoon movie, and then everyone's
Yeah.
gonna see. But you know, but what I realized they were doing with Guardians of the Galaxy is they are taking their cinematic franchise and they're making it just like the comic book franchise,
Yeah.
where there are serious corners of it and
Hmm.
there are just completely bonkers, crazy, like pulpy adventure corners of it. And there are corners where they deal with social issues, where there are allegories, where there are references to our current culture. And there are corners of it where it's just flat out adventure, where nobody worries about any real world issues, where
Hmm.
the allusions to the real world are things like Kevin Bacon references or pop songs on the soundtrack, and
Right.
it's not politics, and you know, and it all coexists. Like it's all in the same sphere. And
Hmm.
theoretically, you know, Tony Stark and Peter Quill could have coffee together. I mean, they're in the
They
same
probably will
universe. They
at
probably,
some
yeah,
point.
they probably will. Yeah, exactly. They probably will. And it'll probably be a ton of fun because
Hmm.
Marvel doesn't give a shit about whether or not you find it plausible because they're smart enough to know that it's superheroes, it's fantasy. As
Hmm.
long as you have an emotional investment in it, it doesn't matter if it's plausible. And if it's a good movie, people will take it seriously. Even if it's a fun movie, people will take it seriously. The point that Warner Brothers and DC have missed is you don't have to make a self-consciously serious movie in order for people to take it seriously as a film. You just have to make a good movie for people
You
to
heard
take it
that
seriously as a film.
what DC's response to this film was. They sent a note. Apparently, they sent a note out to all the writers who are working on their scripts right now. The basic gist of it was no jokes. We're gonna make serious movies. Good luck with that, guys. I really
Yeah.
hope that you make a bunch of serious movies that are really good, but don't be really surprised if you don't capture the same box office that these movies are. These movies are capturing a box office because they, you know, I know that they're overproduced. I know that there are a lot of hands involved in these films, but the amazing thing about Guardians is that it doesn't feel like there were a lot of producers
No.
behind it. This movie has Disney and Marvel behind it, and there are a lot of producers, but you know what? I know James Gunn movies, and this is a James Gunn movie. When I first heard that he was being talked about to direct, I was like, that's a really weird choice because his last film was Super, and that is as far away from a Marvel film as you can possibly get. And when I heard that they were seriously talking about him doing it, I was like, I wonder if he'd do it. And then when I found out he would do it, I was like, how is that going to work? Now, this is the biggest budget he's ever worked with. This is probably the largest cast that he's ever worked with, but he works well with special effects. And what he does really well is he takes ridiculous situations and creates characters and works with actors to make those characters not only feel real in the environment that they're living in, but he creates a way for he brings out performances where we give a damn about them. We care about them, and we really needed to care about these four criminals. We really did. And that is something that is kind of tough to do. They have to be ne'er-do-wells, but they can't be complete jerks. And one of them isn't a jerk at all. Groot is not. Groot is going to be the thing that we're going to have to live with for the next 50 years. He has replaced Chewbacca. He's replaced everything else. Groot is the dude at this point. I read Marvel Comics since I was a kid. I have the 4-issue Rocket Raccoon mini-issue signed by the creators somewhere off in a safe box in my house. And even I was nervous about when I heard they're developing it. My first reaction was, really? And then I was like, okay, they're going to do it, but it's not going to have Rocket Raccoon. It's definitely not going to have Groot. And the fact that they went, no, that's what we're doing. We're doing that one. I was like, okay, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you guys, because, boy, this sounds like a risk. And, you're right. After this, it's kind of like you guys can. All right, I'm gonna spoil the very end of this movie, and this is how confident they were that they could do anything they wanted. The hook at the end of this features a character that some people in the audience recognized right away, but I knew who my brethren were because we all screamed at the same time when we saw him. And that character was Howard the Duck. Now, everyone has seen the spoilers. We all know that Howard the Duck makes an appearance at the very end of this film. But the fact that they put Howard in the movie means we are not embarrassed by any part of our comic history. And we're going to prove it by taking this cartoon duck that Disney sued us for. This is the best part. Disney sued Marvel over Howard the Duck because he looked too much like Donald Duck. And now Disney has placed him in a movie at the end of the movie drinking a cocktail. And I was one of the first people that I turned to my brother who works in the comic industry and I said, you know what? I want them to make another Howard the Duck movie. I want them to make a new Howard the Duck movie. Forget the one that Lucas did, and just redo it, because they could literally do it. And there's very few series of films out there that actually give me hope that they could take almost any property and turn it into something good and successful, because they're taking their time with it. They're trusting the source material, which is something that I don't think a whole lot of these other films are doing. To trust they take a look at a comic book and go, this was fairly popular. Maybe we shouldn't fuck with it a whole lot and just put it on screen and not dress everyone in black and make everything super serious and really dark. I hate to say this, but it really does feel like DC is laboring under the idea that it's still the late 90s. And that we need, or early 2000s, and that it's not going to be 2016. So, I mean, my final thoughts: if you like having fun and you love these, and you love the Marvel movies up to this point, you're gonna really fucking love this movie, and I thoroughly recommend it. Steve?
Oh yeah, I completely recommend it. I recommend it without reservation, unreservedly. If for whatever reason you haven't seen it yet, go see it. I mean, if you were like me and you saw the last Superman movie and you thought, wow, that was the least fun I've ever had with an inherently very fun character. I mean, how do you make a Superman movie that is violent and joyless? I don't even know how you do that, but they somehow managed to do that. And Guardians of the Galaxy is the exact opposite of that, and it's the superior film to Man of Steel in every possible way, and it's one of the best, if not my favorite, of the Marvel movies so far, because
it has become for a lot of people their favorite Marvel movie
because it's so confident in its material. I mean, you said a moment ago, it's very obvious that the Marvel Studios crew are not embarrassed of the source material. They're embracing it, whether it's serious or whether it's silly. They're taking it for what it is, and they're pulling it off. The execution is so much of this. It's so well executed. It's so skillfully executed, and it doesn't matter if it's silly or if it's goofy or if it's out there and crazy. If it's skillfully executed and it works, then it comes across as a great movie. And this is a great movie, and I totally recommend it.
Great. Blue people. Blue people.
Yes,
no
with
tentacles, no nothing, just blue. Blue people.
with arrows that fly around
With
when you
arrows
whistle
that
at
fly
them.
when you whistle at them. I know.
I mean, come on!
And that scene with him when he whistles it and it goes through all 90 of the guys and the spaceships and everything.
That was awesome.
There's been so few movies out there that just had cool stuff in it.
Yeah. That's something else I want to bring up that we haven't talked about yet is the action scenes in it were so inventive. It wasn't just people smashing into other things. It wasn't just fights where people punch each other through buildings or it's just pointless destruction and chaos. Mm-hmm. They were inventive, and there were these visuals that some of which were really beautiful. Like I loved the net that the planetary defense ships formed
when all the ships
together. Yeah, to stop the villains' ship from landing in the city. Like, I thought that was really beautiful, the way that first they came together and formed like this wall, and then the way it had weight and dimension and it stretched and sort of held the ship up. I thought that was great. I loved Groot like spreading his branches around everybody as the ship was crashing. I thought that was a genuinely beautiful scene. Like,
there are several. There are several like that.
And it's like, and it shows what a great what a great command of tone that James Gunn has, where you can make a movie that is, it's a fun, lightweight feather of a movie that is not going to depress you or bring you down. It's going to put you in a great mood, but at the same time, it has these moments of just real visual beauty where it's something serious. It's not necessarily something heavy, but it's not something silly and goofy either. It's a really beautiful moment when Groot encloses everybody in his arms, and there are a couple of other moments like that too. It's just such a well done movie and has such cleverness and invention and thought put into it. I just can't say enough good things about it.
No. Okay, but you know what? What do we know? We don't know everything. There are people out there who obviously probably hate this movie,
Yes.
Now it's time for Counterpoint. People who disagree with Steve and I vehemently. Not directly, not personally. I've pulled 2 less than 1-star reviews from the audience reviews section on Rotten Tomatoes, and I thought I would share them with you just to balance it out. Gary N. gave it a 1/4 star. And his review is as follows. A complete waste of time. I would be better off with Gilligan's Island. It at least that was funny and had good storyline. Gary, I'm glad that you know how to type. I'm glad your special needs teacher taught you that. And I'm glad that you enjoy Gilligan's Island as much as you do. I don't know if that was meant as a joke or what. I'm kind of curious as to what your demands are for a good storyline, but since you only compare it with Gilligan's Island, I think you pretty much explained yourself to me perfectly. Steve, anything for Gary?
Gary, I have to disagree. I think it was better than Gilligan's Island. With all due respect.
He's still waiting for that live-action Gilligan's Island movie that no one's going to produce.
Yeah.
Now that I've said it out loud, there's
Here
someone
it comes.
Yeah, here it comes.
It's in development right now.
No. Oh.
What have you done? It's like when Ray thinks of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters. You doomed us all.
Okay, here we go. Chad T gave it 1 whole star. And he wrote, "This movie was absolutely terrible, and I can't believe the ratings. Clearly, this website is paid off to give high reviews for certain studios or producers or whatever. The people's reviews are also clearly manipulated. The action was crap, and they constantly tried to be funny, but were not at all. There were like 2 or 3 funny parts," which contradicts what you just said, Chad. "And that is it. It was so ridiculous, it would have only been good, maybe, if Will Ferrell was the main character." Wow, horrible. Chad, if you're convinced that the movie studios have enough money to pay off every single 5-star review in the the audience reviews, maybe you should want to get some of that money because you just have a bad opinion of the film. It's your opinion. You can own it. That's fine. But don't make up bullshit to cover up the fact that you are in the minority as far as your liking of this film. It's not a conspiracy. They're not paying off critics, and they're definitely not paying off audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes to make this film look good. You just didn't like it. You just don't understand. There are plenty of movies that I don't like, and I don't understand why everyone else likes them. Titanic. But you don't see me manufacturing a conspiracy theory on the very boards that you claim are a conspiracy theory, do you? No, you don't.
You know, it's a good thing that Chad's comment somehow made it through the conspiracy and made it onto the site, isn't it? I would recommend to Chad, I would just say to him, I really sincerely hope that you enjoy the next joke-free 9/11 reenactment that is the next Man of Steel movie. I hope that is much more up your alley, where you like your superhero movies being dire and filled with dread and without any humor or any sense of charisma or fun or charm. You know, if you ever read comic books as a child and you said, oh, these characters are so exciting and fun and filled with limitless possibilities, I wonder what would happen if we drained all the joy from them and then made loud, obnoxious movies about them that lasted 3 hours. I hope you enjoy the next Man of Steel movie, Chad, because you're probably one of the people that enabled it to be made. Thanks a lot, pal.
Oh yeah, and Chad, here's something. Comedy is difficult. There's an old standard. Dying is easy, comedy is hard. Here's what they mean by that. Comedy is one of those things that if you get it wrong, you know instantly, and it murders you a little bit inside. It's risky. It is far more risky than drama because there is no instant feedback from an audience when it comes to drama. You just put dark shit up there and people just stare at it and you're like, oh, they're really digging it. Bull. If you're going to do a comedy and you're going to say that this is a comedy and there are going to be jokes in it, you're taking a risk that people aren't going to laugh. And so you didn't laugh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry it wasn't as funny as you want, but at least they took the risk on trying to make it funny. And if you would rather go watch people play act at drama and play act at being serious, then fine. Go do that. Hopefully the next dark movie, I don't know, let's name some off. The Underworld series, Priest. There's a shit ton of really dark movies that no one's going to, by the way, that I'm sure you will enjoy. Boy, we really hate Chad. We're like, let's dog on Chad.
He brings it on himself. He brings it on himself.
All right, now it's time to move on to recommendations. This is where Steve and I make recommendations for other films for you guys to go out and watch. Maybe if you haven't seen them, or maybe they're obscure, or maybe they're really old. But these are films that we like. We both have a different recommendation, and this week I'm going to recommend another James Gunn film. I was going to recommend Super, a film that I mentioned earlier, but I'm not sure if I haven't recommended it already. I can't remember. So I'm going to recommend another of his films that I really like, which is Slither, which is a really gross horror movie that, you know, all the stuff that we were talking about before about having characters you give a damn about and having real humor and taking a medium or a genre and breathing kind of new life into it and paying homage to old 1950s horror movies as well as the gross out horror movies of the 1980s. That's what Slither is. It's basically about this parasitic being that lands in a small town and starts doing heinously gross things to people, kind of turning them into zombies. It has Nathan Fillion as the local sheriff who's trying to fight off this parasitic kind of infection. It is one of those, it was a surprise. When I saw the advertisement and stuff like that, the advertisement does not show what the film is actually like. And when I sat down and started watching it, I was really surprised at how funny, well-written, and engaging this, what would be a typical schlocky horror movie, and kind of elevated it with the level of writing and the level of character development that you don't normally expect. I'm not going to get too far into it. Just be forewarned, it's gross. It's a very gross movie. But if you're okay with that, then go out and see Slither. Steve?
Well, I'm going to recommend a movie that I actually was reminded of a couple of times while watching Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a movie from the 80s. I remember it from when I was a kid, and it has a lot of similarities, and I think a lot of people have kind of made this comparison already. So I'm just going to go ahead and recommend The Last Starfighter. It's a movie that has actually kind of come up and gained a little bit of cult status over the last few years. I think once all of us got on the internet and started talking to each other, it was one of those movies
It
that
was
we
like,
all
oh wait,
sort of
you like that too?
yeah, it's like oh, it was one of those movies where like oh wow, we all kind of like this movie, and it's a dumb fun movie. It's a space adventure. It's a little bit like a scaled down Star Wars if Luke Skywalker was from Earth,
Yeah.
you know. And there's just all kinds of like it's about a kid from Earth who gets recruited into an intergalactic space army because his favorite arcade game turns out to be like sort of like an audition for being a pilot in this Starfleet. He plays a video game and has the high score on the game, and he is visited by a representative, like an alien, who recruits him into this intergalactic war that he is now the great hope for winning. It's a goofy premise, but it's a lot of fun. It has special effects that were kind of considered cutting edge at the time. Now they look sort of cheesy because they're computer generated effects that were really highly touted at the time, and now they look like they kind of embarrassing, but really fun special effects. And my favorite part is one of the main supporting roles is played by Robert Preston,
Yep.
who was the Music Man in the most well-known film version of the Music Man, and he basically plays the same character. His character Centauri in The Last Starfighter is pretty much Professor Harold Hill from the Music Man. And I think that was done purposely. I think it was intended as an homage to that character because he's pretty much the exact same guy, only like 20 years older. But it's a really fun movie. It has a lot of the same things going for it as Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think it's nearly as good a film as Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's a lot of fun. It's another movie you can watch if you have kids. Parents can watch it with kids, and you don't have to feel like anybody's doing anybody a favor by watching the movie. And it's just a ton of fun, and I know a lot of you maybe have seen it already, but if you haven't, I highly recommend The Last Starfighter.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. And, if there's a movie that you want us to take a look at or review, why not? Leave it in the comment section, and we may take it seriously. I think we've done that once before where someone wanted us to their... I think someone wanted us to do The Matrix, and boy, did they live to regret that. And leave any comment suggestions or anything else down in the comment section. Please go to Steve's channel, which is, I think, now just called Steve Shives.
Yeah.
He produces fantastic videos that aren't necessarily about movies, although movies do sneak in every once in a while. And thank you guys for watching once again. And go see a movie this week.